Welcome to Global Voices, where every story matters. Hello, and welcome to Global Voices, the place where readers and writers will share their passion and love for books. My name is Teuta Metra, and this is my first podcast, hopefully, the first of many more to come. Today, I will be talking to the amazing thriller writer and my good friend, Natali Simmonds. Just let me open the door for her. Okay. Natali.
Hello, how
Hello,
are you?
hello. Welcome. Thank you for joining me today. How are you?
I'm good. I'm in my house in Spain, so I'm also very, very hot.
I was just about to ask, where in the world are you?
Well, I mean, the picture behind me is Thailand, but I'm actually in Spain. But yeah, it got to 44 degrees in my car today, so
Okay.
it's pretty
It's
unbearable.
not
That's
very
why
nice.
I'm sweating right now. But I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here, even though it's so hot in Spain. Remember when I told you about this idea, this podcast idea, and you asked me, but why? What's the difference? There are so many podcasts out there. And I told you this is about us, about women that live in different countries and they write books in English, even though English is your first language. But
Yeah.
we still try to make a difference, and that this is the idea behind this podcast. Uh, could you tell us something about yourself?
Yeah, so my name's Natalie. I write as Natali Simmonds, thrillers, psychological suspense. I also write fantasy as NJ Simmons. My father's Spanish, which is why I still have my house here in Spain. My mother's from London, she's English. And Telto and I met in the Netherlands, where I've been living for the last 8 years. Um, we live not far from each other. So I've lived all around the world. Um, well, England, Spain, Netherlands, and Australia. And like you, we've talked about this a lot, that kind of immigrant mindset where you never feel like you're quite at home wherever you are. You carry a bit of everywhere that you've ever
Yeah.
been, especially if your parents are from a different place to where you grew up. So my background's marketing, but for the last, say about 10 years, I've been an author. And a lot of that kind of multicultural cross heritage comes through in my books, and even on a subconscious level, because I don't even realize I'm doing it. That's just the world I live in.
Mhm.
There's lots of people from lots of different places, or a lot of my characters are half Spanish and struggling with that kind of identity.
I want to talk a bit about your last book.
Yeah, so My Daughter's Revenge is my second thriller. It's out with Bookature, and it's about a woman in her late 40s with a nearly 17-year-old daughter and their struggles with identity. Actually, not about where they're from, because it's set in the UK and they're all English. I made this one quite simple. But the mother hasn't got a very good relationship with her husband, and she's struggling with who she is and who she's becoming, and her beauty and sexual power and all that
No
kind of.
spoilers, okay? No
No
spoilers.
spoilers, no spoilers, I promise. And the daughter is the opposite. She's just discovering that power that you get as an attractive teenager. And the book starts with the death of somebody, of a guy.
Mhm.
You don't know who he is, and you don't know what the mother and daughter have got to do with it. But there's a lot of themes about secrets and lies. And, ironically, the daughter's a lot more like the mother than she would like to admit. So
Mhm.
it's very twisty and dark.
It was Jules and Leah, right? That
That's
way?
right. Well remembered. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
You've read it, haven't you? You've already got an early copy.
How did you come up with this idea?
I came up with it years and years ago. So when I first started writing, it was fantasy and it was for young adults. So I started kind of coming up with ideas for YA books. And I remember watching a movie called The Crush with Alicia Silverstone in the 90s.
Mhm.
And it was about a teenager that gets really obsessed with this guy, and he ends up being really scared of her. And I love that idea of like the prey becoming the predator. There's because I remember being a teenager and being really obsessive and really like slightly unhinged. So I remember saying to my agent, I've got this idea, but I don't know if it's a thriller. I originally had it as a YA, and she said, "Oh, but how would the mother feel about it?" And that's when I realized, oh, if I had this obsessive teenager that's getting herself in a really bad situation, and then the mother has to get involved and makes things worse, that would be really interesting. So, and then I turned it all into a thriller, and yeah, and it's worked. So I'm really excited about it.
Okay. Yeah, I loved it, but I'm not gonna say anything about it. I love the end. It's really, yeah, it was,
Yeah.
I didn't expect it.
I had a lot of endings. So when I was going through it with my
Mhm.
agent, I kept changing the ending, like who did it. So then by the time my editor got it, she's like, I just want to do like an extra big twist at the end. And I said, well, I have 6 endings, choose one. Because we keep, we don't know which one we want. And so we kind of did a big twist and then another twist. So you do get like a double
No, but
punch at the end.
really, I was not expecting that. So you really did so great.
Oh, thank you.
Do you always agree with your editor?
I do actually, even if at first, because I've had a number of editors for different books, if at first I might go, oh, well, what? I remember with Good Girls Die Last, the book before this one,
Mhm.
my editor wanted to change something quite big, actually. I won't say what it is because there'll be a spoiler. And I remember thinking, that's the whole point of the book. I can't do that. And then I realized that if I did do that, it made it stronger. So now I don't really argue with my editors because they're generally right. But you can, I mean, everything they say are just a suggestion.
Okay. But when you there is this expression, kill your darlings, does it hurt?
Yeah, I mean, with my second thriller, Son of Secrets, I remember the editor, she was right, but said, look, this whole like subplot, this whole side story isn't needed. And I said, well, what do you mean? I love it. She was like, yeah, it's great, but it's not needed. It's not adding to the book, and you need to make the book a bit tighter. And I had to delete 16,000 words.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Which was
that hurts.
about 8 chapters. It was a lot. And then when I took it out, I was like, oh, the story's better now. But it was. And, in my head, I was like, oh, keep that. I'll keep that for another time and another book. And I never did. But in my head,
because I always keep them separately. And I think maybe I will use it again, but I never use them again, actually. So,
but it makes you feel like, okay, well,
I still have it. I still have it.
Yeah, exactly. Just in case. And sometimes I do, like I had a whole book that didn't get anywhere. And I did kind of take from it and rewrite something else. And I used ideas. So I always think like nothing's completely wasted.
I heard somewhere that you said that you sent the manuscript of Good Girl Die Last, and then your agent waited until Monday to call you and to tell you that you.
Yeah, I got an agent really fast. So I was writing fantasy books and didn't have an agent, and they were published, but they were small publishers. And I really wanted to have the opportunity, really, of having a big publisher and be in all the bookshops. And you can't do that without an agent, as you know, Tata. So yeah, I didn't know. I was just sick and tired of writing books that were not getting anywhere, and everyone saying they're really good, but they're not quite right. So I stopped for a minute and I thought, what's selling really well? Like, I'm going to write a thriller. Maybe I'm just going to change my genre and write a thriller. And then I kind of approached it from a more marketing perspective, which is my background. And I decided to think, well, can I come up with a line, a pitch that's going to sell this idea really, really fast in one line? So I came up with the concept of Feminist Falling Down, which is a movie with Michael Douglas. One woman has to cross London on foot during a heat wave because all the public transport breaks down.
Which is strange because I cannot imagine London having a heat wave.
Well, it did have one. A year after I wrote it, it had a heat wave of 40 degrees and everyone was like dying, I think literally. But so in the book, I just, I sold it with one line. It was like a woman has to cross London on foot when there's a record-breaking heat wave to get to the airport, city airport, because her mother's dying and her sister's getting married. And there's a serial killer on the loose. So that's the whole story. So from the first page, she sets off and all the way through. But it's all about the microaggressions that women face every day. It's a very Me Too book. And then she snaps. She has had enough. And that's when the whole book takes a completely different turn. So I knew I was onto something. I knew it was relevant and topical and relatable and all the keywords that agents and editors are looking for. So I told a few of my author friends, you were one of them. They read them, they liked it. They said, go ahead with it. And then a friend of mine who had an agent that I always envied her for having put on Twitter, oh my God, Natalie's going out with this new book in 2 weeks. Whichever agent gets their hands on it is so lucky. And her agent saw the tweet and said to her, this is Emma Cooper, another great writer, and said to her, Emma, get Natali to send it to me first. So I sent it to this agent on Friday evening at 6 o'clock. At 8 o'clock in the evening, she said, send me the whole manuscript. I want to read it. She read it over the weekend. And at 9 o'clock on Monday morning, she was like, I want to have a meeting. I want to talk to you about it. I was like, oh. And by Tuesday, she offered. And I was tempted to go to other agents. And then I thought, no, she's my dream agent. So now my friend Emma Cooper and I share Amanda Preston. And because of her, I got a book deal in 3 weeks with Headline and a TV deal. So it's been turned into a series, or at least it's in the process of it. Hopefully that will happen. And yeah, it changed my life. So
oh yeah, it's amazing. It's a dream for every writer.
It's been incredible. And now I've got a book deal with Bookature, and it's 2 books a year. So the next one's out in August, and then I've got one out in February. So I'm busy.
Anyway, if any agent is going to read my book, please don't wait until Monday. You can call me right away.
Yeah, because my agent said to me that she wanted to make an offer like on the Sunday evening. She said to her husband, I'm really scared somebody else is going to get it. He said, you can't email people on a weekend. Wait until Monday.
Of course you can. Of course you can.
She was the only one that had it. So she didn't have to fight me. You know, she didn't have to fight other agents for me. I was like, yep, okay, great. Nobody else got to see it.
Natali, I know that you write very fast, and you just mentioned that you have a deal with Bookature and you are going to write 2 books a year. How on earth do you manage to do that?
It's my full-time job. So to be fair, I'm not going to the office every day. I mean, I know you work part-time as well, or well, nearly full-time. So I don't have that to worry about. I don't have a boss. I do a lot of lecturing and teaching and stuff. So I am busy doing the stuff, but that's on top of my writing. I manage that. I'm self-employed basically. And my children are 13 and 15. So they're really good at not talking to me. So I don't do a lot of mothering either. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a cleaner or anything like that, but I am left alone from 8 till 8 or whatever. So I work really long hours. Sometimes I wake up at 6 in the morning and I start writing. Other times, you know, I'll go to the cinema during the day and then I'm writing till midnight. I manage my own time. So I'm also a very obsessive person, as you know. It means that I can do lots of different things at once, and my mind's in a million places. I'm not very good at stopping. So even here, like in Spain at the moment, because it's a home from home, I'm still working. I'm still writing. I'm still working on projects.
So you are not like, there are some writers like me, for example, that I'm most productive in the morning. And if I don't write in the morning, then I cannot write anymore during the day. So you write anytime that you find it.
It depends. So when I'm in the Netherlands, I mainly write in the morning.
Maybe the weather here.
I think it is. And it's like, you know, the sun's up and it gets dark really quickly, doesn't it? And, you know, I have my dinner early, and after dinner, I can't be bothered. But here in Spain, it's just too hot. So, you know, I don't have dinner till 10 o'clock and I'm up till 1 o'clock in the morning. So most of the time, yeah, here in Spain, I write early morning and late at night because I'm too hot in the middle of the day.
Yes.
It depends really. Sometimes I'll just write solidly for like 10-12 hours a day and like just working, and then other days I don't do anything.
Okay. Going back to what you said that you planned writing Good Girl Della, so you had an idea what you are going to do, and then you pitched the idea and everything. So are you a writer that you know what your book is going to be? I mean, you have everything ready in your mind or on paper before you start writing it?
Yeah, I have to because I think if you're a pantser, you know, people that fly by the seat of their pants and then just sit down and see what comes to them. To me, that's like getting in the car and not knowing where you're going and waiting to see the signs and stopping and starting, and you'll get there, but it's going to take you longer. And some people need to do it that way because they don't know what the story is until they start the process. But I produce 2 to 4 books a year. I don't have the luxury to sit there and go, oh, let's see what comes to me. So I tend to do all of that kind of driving around aimlessly in my head before I sit down and write. So while I'm editing one book and plotting another book, I might have this other seed of an idea. And every time I go to bed or in the shower or when I'm walking or whatever, I'm thinking about it. And then when I know what's happening, I watch it like a movie in my head. And then when I know what's going to happen, I start to plot it. And that's when I come up with one line, because if I can't sell it and make my book sound interesting in one sentence, I know that it's not going to be catchy enough for my editor to say, yeah, go ahead with it. And I don't want to write a whole book and then be told no, you know? So I do it incrementally. I start with one sentence, then I write the blurb, then I write the whole synopsis. And that's basically the entire book, but just on 2 pages. Then if my editor and my agent are like, yeah, great, go ahead with it, that sounds good, then I break it down into chapters, because I know how many words it will be, how many words per chapter roughly. And then I decide roughly what happens in each chapter, and I write bullet points. And I work to a set of like beats so that the story has the right highs and lows and 3 acts and everything. And then, and only then, when basically it's like I've written the book, but it's in skeleton form, then I really obsessively, because I'm very kind of hyper focused, then I'll be like, right, 1st of May, I've got 6 weeks, I've got to write this, and then I'll write a chapter a day.
Wow, amazing.
Without, and then I just book out that. So that I do it in a very systematic way, and that's how I've done all my books. Well, the last 3 books, and it's worked.
Okay. This is my last question, because I know there is too hot for you.
No, it's okay. I've got the fan on me now. I'm fine.
I hear a lot this, I want to write a book, but I don't know where to start. What would be your advice? And you mentioned that you teach about writing. Can you tell us something more about that?
So first of all, anything you need to know about me or my books or my writing, my writing classes, or even the one-to-one mentoring that I do, because if you want to talk to me face to face, I also do one-to-one mentoring. It's all on my website, which is njsimmonds.com. NJ Simmonds, which is my fantasy author name, but I've had the website for years. So NJ Simmonds with 2 M's, NDS.com. And that's where you'll see all my classes and you can click through them. So yeah, I teach everything from how to write sex scenes to, that's a fun class, to how to pitch your book, how to brand yourself as a creative, how to creative diversification, which is where I teach creatives how to do more than one project at a time so that they can like hedge their bets. So I do lots of different kind of classes for various people. But yeah, my advice for somebody who's just starting out, normally I say don't write a book unless you have no choice. As in, if you have got this idea and it's burning you up inside and you can't stop thinking about it and these characters are talking to you, then you're ready to write a book. If you're sitting there going, I really want to write a book, but I don't know what to write about, I don't think you're going to finish it. I don't think you're going to get very far. You have to be really obsessive, because it's like being a ballet dancer or a footballer or a musician or something. Like if you're not taking your guitar to the toilet to keep practicing, if you're not doing your dance steps while you're waiting in a queue, then you're not obsessive enough to finish a book, because it's going to take so much out of you. So first of all, make sure it's something you desperately want to do, and then write your synopsis, which most people tell you to write at the very end, but I think
which I hate doing it.
Yes, most people hate it, but I'm saying, well, a synopsis is just like a book report. What's your book about? How does it start? What happens? What are the twists? Describe the characters, and then that's your book. Then you can write your whole book, because you know what's going to happen, because you've just decided. And things change sometimes. And with my, my latest, My Daughter's Revenge, the killer kept changing. I think every character in the book at one point was the killer, and you can play around with it. You don't have to stick to your original idea, but at least that way it's like getting in a car. You've got a map. You might not know exactly how to get to place to fill up your petrol or something, but you know that you're going to get to the end. Otherwise, you're driving around for 5 years, and then you're going to lose interest.
I told you that it was going to be the last question, but this is the last one. What are you writing? What are you writing right now?
So I've just handed in my 3rd thriller. Hasn't got a title yet, but it's about a severely sleep-deprived mother who is really struggling on her own, and she's not quite sure if she's done the terrible thing that she thinks she's done and whether she can trust the people around her. And that actually came from a real life experience. I had 4 years of severe sleep deprivation with my children. And I wanted to explore the psychosis that comes with that, because I don't think it's taken seriously. So that's quite a dark book, and it was a hard one to write. So I finished that one. And I'm also, I didn't mention earlier, I also co-write with my very best friend, Jacqueline Sylvester, Jackie, and we write as Cadis Night, and their paranormal romance series, called The Blood Web. And there's 7 books, and we're just finishing off the 5th book, which will be out hopefully by the end of this year. So I'm busy writing about sexy werewolves in Berlin.
Wow.
Just change things up a little bit. So in between my thrillers, hopefully, you know, I'll know if I've got more thrillers to write in the near future. But before I start on them, yeah, I'm writing about shape-shifting people and vampires and wolves, and it's all a bit sexy and it's a lot of fun. So that keeps me busy.
Okay. Natali, thank you so much for being here today with me.
Thank you. I've had such a great time. Thank you so much, Telsa.